Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn about the first part of our course of film studies, that is, particularly the Indian cinema. Unit number first, History of Indian Cinema, and in it we are going to learn five parts of history of Indian cinema. That is, first part is about early history. Today we are going to learn about the early history of Indian film, which is called as the silent films era, and it is from 1890s to 1940s. So the first part, cinema of India, that comprises first produced in India, where more than 1800 movies are produced annually. Major centers of film production in the country include Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, New Delhi, Amritsar, Kochi, Bangalore, Bhubaneswar, Cuttack, and Guwahati. As of 2018, India ranked the first of terms of annual film output. In 2015, India had a total box office gross of US dollar 2.1 billion, the third largest in the world. The overall revenue of Indian cinema reached US dollar 2.7 billion in 2019. The industry is segmented by language. In 2019, the Hindi film industry represented 44% of box office revenue, followed by the Tamil and the Telugu film industries, each representing 13%. Other prominent film industries include Malayalam and Kannada film industries representing 5% each, as well as Bengali, Marathi, Punjabi, Chhattisgarhi, and Bhojpuri film industries representing the 5% combined. By 2020, the combined revenue of all regional film industries has surpassed that of the Hindi film industry. In 2021, Telugu cinema was the largest film industry of India in terms of box office. India Indian cinema is a global enterprise, and the films have a following throughout Southern Asia and across Europe, North America, Asia, the Greater Middle East, Eastern Africa, China, and elsewhere, reaching over 90 countries. Films like Bahubali, The Beginning, were dubbed in more than three languages, thus starting a pan India films movement. Millions of Indian overseas watch India films, accounting for some 12% of revenues. Major Indian enterprises in the film industry include Modern Theaters, AVM Productions, Sun Pictures, AGS Entertainment, Geeta Arts, Z, Mitri Movie Makers, UTV, Suresh Productions, Eros International, Asakar Films, and Yashraj Films. So, this is about the film industry of India and how it is produced the movies. The next part is about the silent films, which is called as early films. That is, the history of cinema in India extends back to the beginning of the film era, following the screening of the Lumiere and Robert Paul moving pictures in London in 1896. Commercial cinematography became a worldwide sensation, and by mid 1896, both Lumiere and Robert Paul films had been shown in Bombay. Silent films in 1897, a film presentation by Professor Stevenson featured a stage show at Calcutta's Star Theatre with Stevenson encouragement and camera Hiralal Sen, an Indian photographer, made a film of scenes from that show, namely The Flower of Persia, The Wrestlers by H.S. Bhatwadekar, showing a wrestling match at the Hanging Gardens in Bombay, was the first film to be shot by an Indian and first Indian documentary film. The first Indian film released in India, that is Shri Pundlik, a silent film in Marathi by Dada Saheb Torne on 18 May 1912 at Cinematograph, Bombay. Some have argued that Pundlik was not the first Indian film because it was a photographic recording of a play and because the cameraman was a British man named Johnson and the film was processed in London. If we see Pundlik was published in 1912 at the Coronation Cinematograph, Girgam, Mumbai, is recognized as the first feature-length Indian film. Shri Pundlik was produced and directed Dadasaheb Torne alias Ramchandra Gopal. So, this is about the first film produced in India in Marathi. And now the next part is about the actual movie which we know about it, that is the movie or film Raja Harishchandra. The second full length motion picture in India was produced by Dada Saheb Phalke. Phalke is seen as the pioneer of the Indian film industry and a scholar of India's languages and culture. He employed elements from Sanskrit epics to produce his Raja Harishchandra in 1913, a silent film in Marathi. The female characters in the film were played by male actors. Only one print of the film was made for showing at the Coronation Cinematograph on 3rd May 1913. It was a commercial success. The first silent film is called as a Raja Harishchandra, that is often considered the first full-length Indian feature film. Raja Harishchandra's features Dattatreya Damodar Phalke, Anna Salkhe, Bhalchandra Phalke, and Gajanan Vasudev Sane, and it is based on the epic, that is Harishchandra, Raja Harishchandra. Phalke decided to make a feature film after watching The Life of Christ at a theater in Bombay in April 1911. In February 1912, he went to London for 2 weeks to learn filmmaking techniques and upon return founded Films Company. He imported the hardware required for filmmaking and exhibition from England, France, Germany, and the United States. Phalke shot a short film, Ankurchi Wad, Growth of a Pea Plant, to attract investors for his venture. He published advertisements in various newspapers calling for the cast and crew. As no women were available to play female roles, male actors performed the female roles. Phalke was in charge of script main, direction, production design, makeup, film editing, along with film processing. Trambak B. Telang handled the camera. Phalke completed filming in 6 months and 27 days, producing a film of 3.700 feet, about 4 reels. The film premiered at the Olympia Theatre, Bombay on 21st April 1930s and had its theatrical release on 3rd May 1913 at the Coronation Cinematograph and Variety Hall, Girgaon. It was a commercial success and laid the foundation for the film industry in the country. The film is partially lost. Only the first and last reels of the film are preserved at the National Film Archive of India. Some film historians believe these belong to a 1970 remake of the film by Phalke titled Satyawadi Raja Harishchandra. So, the status of Raja Harishchandra as the first full length Indian feature film has been debated. Some film historians consider Dadasaheb Torne's silent film Shri Pundalik, released on 18 May 1912. The maiden Indian film. The government of India recognizes Raja Harishchandra as the first Indian feature film. So, it is the film produced by Dada Saib Phalke and known as the first Indian feature film. Uh, the plot of the particular film is about King Harishchandra is shown teaching his son Rohitashav how to shoot with a bow and arrow in the presence of Queen Taramati. His citizens ask him to go on a hunting expedition. While on the hunt, Harishchandra hears the cries of some women. He reaches a place where the sage Vishwamitra is performing a yagya to get help from Triguna Shakti against their will. Harishchandra unwittingly interrupts Vishwamitra in the midst of his yagya by releasing the three powers. To appease Vishwamitra's wrath, Harishchandra offers his kingdom. Returning to the royal palace, he informs Taramati of the happenings. Vishwamitra sends Harishchandra, Taramati, and Rohitsav in exile and asks them to arrange for Dakshina. While in exile, Rohitasav dies and Harishchandra sends Taramati to ask the Dam king for arranging a free cremation. While Taramati is on her way to meet the Dam king, Vishwamitra frames her for the murder of the prince of Kashi. Taramati faces trial, pleads guilty, and is ordered to be beheaded by Harishchandra. When he raises his sword to complete his task, a pleased Lord Shiva appears. Vishwamitra reveals that he was examining Harishchandra's integrity, returns the crown to him, and brings Rohitashav back to life. So, this is about the film and the story of the film, which is taken from the theme from the Indian epic. The next is about the Tamil film Kechaka Vadam. It is the film which is in silent film in Tamil made by R. Nataraja Mudliyar in 1916. It is the film which is Kechaka, the commander of King Vairata's forces, attempts to woo and many to marry Draupadi by any means necessary. He even tries to molest Draupadi, prompting her to tell Bhima, her husband, and one of the Pandava brothers about it. Later, when Kechaka meets Draupadi, she requests him to rendezvous with her at a secret hiding place. He arrives there only to find Bhima instead of Draupadi. Bhima kills him. All of us know this is the well-known story from Mahabharata, and if you watched the Mahabharata in lockdown period, you will understand this. What is the story of Kechakavadam? So this is the film made in Tamil for the first time, and it is known as the first silent film in Tamil film industry. The next is about the first chain of Indian cinemas, that is Madan Theater, was owned by Parsi entrepreneur Jamsetji Fremji Madan, who oversaw production of 10 films annually and distributed them throughout India. Beginning in 1902, he founded Elphiston Bioscope Company in Calcutta. Elphiston merged into Madan Theatres Limited in 1919, which had brought many of Bengal's most popular literary works to the stage. He also produced Satyawadi Raja Harishchandra in 1917, a remake of Phalke's Raja Harishchandra 1913. Next is about the man Raghupati Venkaiah Naidu from Machilipattanam was an Indian artist and a film pioneer From 1909, he was involved in many aspects of Indian cinema, traveling across Asia. He was the first to build and own cinemas in Madras. He was credited as the father of Telugu cinema in South India. The first Telugu and Tamil bilingual talkies Kalidas was released on 31st October 1931. Natraj Mudliar established South India's first film studio in Madras. Film steadily gained popularity across India. Tickets were affordable to the masses as low as an anna, 116 of rupees in Bombay, with additional comforts available at the higher price. Young producers began to incorporate elements of Indian social life and culture into cinema. Others brought new ideas from across the world. Global audiences and markets soon became aware of India's film industry. In 1927, the British government, to promote the market in India for British films over American ones, formed the Indian Cinematograph Inquiry Committee. The ICC consisted of three Brits and three Indians, led by T. Rangachari, a Madras lawyer. This committee failed to support the desired recommendations of supporting British film, instead recommending support for the fiddling Indian film industry. Their suggestions were slaved. So it is about the film industry of and the beginning of the film industry and the Indian cinema of the period of 1890s to 1920s. So in the next lecture we learn about the talkies, or the next part of 8, that is from 1930s to 1940s. It is about the one decade of 1930s to 1940s. So in next lecture we will learn about it.